My name is Grace Gwynn. Hello.
Hi, Grace.
Hey, I'm Shekinah Leitner.
And I'm Vanessa Rodriguez.
Hi, Vanessa.
We're members of the Riley Institute's advanced team, a group of Furman University students interested in government and public policy. While we wish we were on campus right now to hear many of the engaging speakers the Riley Institute brings to Furman, we're inviting past speakers like yourself into our own homes to get your unique perspectives on COVID-19 and how it's impacting various sectors of people's lives.
And today we're joined by Angela Maria Kelley, the Senior Strategic Advisor for Immigration at the nonpartisan nonprofit Open Society Foundations and Open Society Policy Center. In 2014, she served as a White House advisor on immigration executive actions. Earlier this year, Ms. Kelley spent several days on Furman's campus as the Riley Institute's Woodrow Wilson Visiting Fellow.
Ms. Kelley, thank you so much for taking time out of your Thursday to speak to us. It's great to see you again, and we hope that you and your loved ones are doing well and safe.
Thank you. It's great to be back, if even in this limited capacity. Yeah, one of the last greatest experiences that I had before the world turned upside down was being with you guys. So yeah, I wish we could turn back the clock and go to that week again.
Yes, it was great. So I think we would just love to hear from you how everything is impacting you in your office. So this crisis seems to be disproportionately impacting immigrants and asylum seekers in some way. And so what challenges has your office faced in recent weeks, and what issues do you anticipate in the future?
Sure. Wow, it's hard to think of anything that's the way it used to be being the way it is now. I mean, so much has changed, unfortunately. And when I talk about the work, it's not just what I'm doing at Open Society, and I'm also now a senior advisor at the American Immigration Lawyers Association. But what I'll talk more about is what the field of immigrant advocates is experiencing. I think that'll give you a fuller picture. Well, I mean, just starting with here in Washington, as you know, Congress has been passing a number of really big relief bills. And there's been a lot of hard work on the part of those that advocate on behalf of immigrants to try to get them covered as well, so that they can have access to treatment and to testing, so that those who have DACA, and work authorization under DACA, that they not lose that. And it's a real uphill battle. Because right now the undocumented are not eligible for testing and treatment, which is really just about the most absurd limitation one could place. If you're trying to make the country healthy again, then we need everybody to be a part of that. And at a time where we're really seeing the country pull together to use these old, outdated, and harmful laws to keep people from getting tested and getting care, means that it's going to take us all longer to get healthy. So those are some of the battles on Capitol Hill. Battles that we're seeing are at the border, where there's been a really intense response by the administration to seal the border, essentially. It's a hard time because the notion of sealing borders is it's worldwide, right? All countries are sealing their borders. And there's some legitimacy, right? Because you do want people to come in who are healthy. But at the same time, at our southern border in particular, we have people who, are fleeing violence. So whether it's violence or the virus, there is some number of people that it would be more in our nation's spirit to try to find a way to help them. Obviously to test them, obviously to make sure that they have legitimate cases. But rather than give anybody a chance to get protection, women, kids, the most vulnerable, people are just being prevented from entering. Another big arena is people who are in detention. We have tens of thousands of people who are being held in detention. ICE, that does enforcement of immigration laws in the interior, has not stopped its operations. So we're adding to the population in detention. And frankly, those folks are sitting ducks when it comes to getting sick, and we're already beginning to see outbreaks. It's very similar to the incarcerated population. And so when you've got people who are vulnerable, who don't pose any harm to society, who are, part of those at-risk groups, it would make a ton of sense to test them and to then release them to the care of their families. But we're not doing that. So I'll stop there because I'm seeing your expressions all getting increasingly depressed, and I don't want to add to what is already a lot of trauma that we're all experiencing.
Right, and I know that President Trump recently signed an executive order to pause the issuing of green cards because of the coronavirus. So do you foresee COVID-19 impacting U.S. immigration rates in the long term?
I do. I mean, it's impacting it now. The executive order that he signed in some ways doesn't really change too much, in that because we're in just such a unique situation, we've essentially stopped immigration to the U.S. in any case. And a lot of other countries have sealed their borders too. Again, this is a worldwide pandemic. But what Trump did in the executive order he signed yesterday is what he's really doing is pulling out his 2018 playbook, a piece of legislation where he was really trying to slash legal immigration, particularly family immigration, immigration from largely from Africa, because he's eliminated a program or stopped a program called diversity visas. So using the pretext of a very serious situation of the pandemic and our economic health, what he's really trying to push is an agenda that he's been advocating since the day he announced he wanted to be president. So what the executive order would do, or does, is it says that there are certain family members that U.S. citizens and legal residents can't bring to the United States right now. So if I was a doctor working double shifts and a single mom, and I needed my parent here, my mom, to take care of my kids, I couldn't bring my parent here. I couldn't bring my daughter who's over the age of 21. I couldn't bring my siblings, and that's, as a U.S. citizen. So he is continuing to permit people to come who are doctors and scientists and researchers and nurses, and that's terrific. But immigrants aren't, they're not just workers in those one industry, and then they're the good guys, and then everybody else doesn't matter. What's keeping this country running are people who are, picking the fruits and vegetables, who are stocking the shelves, who are driving the trucks, who are still working day in and day out, and they're part of family units. And so it's really a time when we need to enable families to be together, not to separate them. That's really at the heart of his executive order. And I think that even though it's only a 60-day order, I'm guessing, without having a crystal ball, that in 59 days we're going to be hearing it's going to be extended.
Looking towards the possibility of the executive order being continued, given that we're in an election year, how do you see this pandemic influencing how candidates continue to talk about immigration and the border? And then also, given the increase in anti-Asian rhetoric that we've seen, and also attacks on minority groups, do you think that will be exacerbated in this election year because of COVID-19?
Yeah. Yes, for sure, the second part of your question, but let me start with the first. We're already seeing what is going to be Trump's re-election strategy, and it was in place before, and it's only going to be on steroids now. And that is to paint immigrants as the other, those who cause us harm, those who bring disease, those who take jobs, And it's really a way of, I think it's a way of scaring people and changing the subject away from his own just disastrous leadership. It's still, there's still so much about where are the masks, where are the tests, where are the ventilators, where, it's like, those are the questions that we should be asking instead of, it says immigrants, aren't they the problem? So I think that that's going to continue to be his go-to in trying to change the subject between now and November. In terms of the Democratic candidate, it's a good question, and I haven't seen a lot yet from Biden. I think that, he is going to have a much more nuanced and thoughtful approach in terms of, yes, we're still going to need immigrants to come to the United States. Of course, we're going to want to make sure that they're coming to fill jobs that we actually have available, and there may be fewer of those jobs. So we may need to have more flexible immigration. I think in terms of like those who have DACA or temporary protected status, I'm sorry, oh, that's my husband bringing me tea during this session. Wow, thank you.
Go, Paladin.
Go. Exhibit A of what it's like to work at home. That was very funny and very sweet. So I think that Biden is going to try to do two things. One, use his executive authority to place, sensible changes, make sensible changes to our immigration laws to be sure that we're letting in the folks that we need to protect those who are the most vulnerable at the border. I don't think he's going to keep the border sealed. Doesn't mean everybody's going to get to come in, but I think he'll let some. And then protect people who are already here, who are part of the solution. Like there's so many who have work authorization because of DACA or because of temporary protected status, and they should, be able to keep working and supporting their families. In terms of how Asian Americans are being vilified by this administration, it's disgusting. There was over and over language calling it the Chinese virus, and to like paint it as if it was somehow the fault of the people from Wuhan, China, and that if like the Americans wouldn't have had the same problem. The irony is, of course, that we're the country with like the most cases, and nobody wants to come here. So I was saddened by so many things, not the least of which was the increase in just reports of hate crimes and violence and attacks on Asian Americans. This is a time that we need to pull together. It's a time that, we don't need to point fingers, but it's really like put our heads together for solutions. And I just think the president doesn't get it. I think he operates in a very isolationist way and prefers to do an us versus them instead of a we together.
And how can we all support immigrants during this time?
Great question. In your local communities, I don't know what kind of programs there might be that are trying to reach those families that are frankly just too afraid to come forward, who may very well need food or just need cash assistance. So I think just looking at the local level for what might be available is really important. There's going to be in May next month, Congress is going to be considering another big relief package. There's going to be an effort to try to protect more people. The testing and treatment that I mentioned to you for the undocumented. There's going to be an effort to try to protect people who have DACA or temporary protected status. So honestly, I know it sounds goofy, but really just weighing in with your member of Congress. If you guys are on social media, you can also tweet. You can, if you just, take a picture of somebody who's working and say, I don't know if they have a green card. I don't know if they're undocumented. I don't know if they were born in the US, but I'm really grateful that they're doing their job. I think that kind of message is really important.
That's great.
Thank you so much. Ms. Kelley, we really appreciate your time and insight today. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us in this difficult time. We hope that you and your family continue to stay safe.
Thank you very much. And it was really great to see you guys again.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.